When the world sleeps, some people still work. But what they experience in the dead of night is something most of us couldn't even survive. Working night shifts in a hospital sounds boring to most people. Just empty hallways, machines beeping softly in the distance, and an occasional emergency. But anyone who's ever worked in one long enough knows the real horror doesn't come from the patients. It comes from what happens when no one else is watching. I work at a small rural hospital in Pennsylvania, the kind of place where the staff is close-knit and things rarely get hectic. I was used to the rhythm of the night. Rounds every hour, checking vitals, updating logs. But one night, around 3:17 a.m., I noticed something off. I was walking past the ICU when I saw an elderly woman standing at the end of the hallway. She had thin gray hair and wore a hospital gown. I assumed she was a confused patient who had wandered out of her room. So I approached her, slowly and calmly. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need help getting back to your bed?" She didn't respond, just stood there, still as a statue, her back toward me. Something about her posture seemed unnatural, rigid, like her limbs weren't fully under her control. Then, without a word, she turned the corner and disappeared into the ICU. Here's the thing, there weren't any patients in the ICU that night. None, not one. It was completely unoccupied. I felt a chill, but I still followed her in, thinking maybe I was wrong or she had come from somewhere else. But the ICU was empty. No beds disturbed, no machines beeping, nothing. At first, I thought maybe I was overtired, that I had hallucinated her. But just to be sure, I went to check the security footage with the night tech. I fast-forwarded to the time I saw her. What we saw made my skin crawl. The footage showed me walking down the hallway, alone. No woman, no one in a gown. Just me, stopping and talking to thin air. But I remember her. The way her eyes never blinked. The way her feet didn't quite touch the floor. I remember the smell, too, a mix of old flowers and something sour. I didn't sleep the next day. And for a while, I thought maybe it was just stress playing tricks on me. But 2 weeks later, something happened again. A patient who had just come out of surgery started screaming in the middle of the night. When I rushed in, he was shaking, crying. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, "There was a woman in here. She was just standing there at the foot of the bed, smiling." We pulled the camera feed from that room, too. Once again, nothing. Since then, some staff have started talking. They say the ICU is haunted. A nurse told me she saw someone standing by the nurse's station mirror at 2:30 a.m., except the reflection didn't match the person walking behind her. We've stopped putting patients in that wing unless absolutely necessary. And on my shift, I avoid the ICU hallway as much as I can. Because sometimes, late at night, when I pass by it, I swear I see a shadow moving just behind the frosted glass, waiting. Marcus never believed in the supernatural. He was the kind of guy who thought horror stories were just that, stories. But after what happened to him during one of his night shifts, he hasn't been able to sleep the same way again. Marcus worked as a cook and cashier at a 24-hour diner located just off a lonely stretch of highway in Tennessee. The place wasn't fancy. Flickering neon sign, sticky red booths, and the constant smell of burnt coffee. Most nights were slow, especially between 2 and 4 a.m. That's when only truckers or the occasional drunk local wandered in. It was a foggy Tuesday night in late October when it happened. Around 2:45 a.m., Marcus was behind the counter cleaning the coffee machine when he heard the bell above the door jingle. A man had walked in. Tall, pale, dressed in a black coat that looked a size too big for him. What struck Marcus instantly was how quiet the diner became. The usual hum of the freezer in the back, the buzz of the overhead lights, it all seemed to dim the moment that man stepped inside. Without saying a word, the man walked over to the booth closest to the large front window and sat down. He didn't look at a menu, didn't glance around, just sat there, staring out the window. Marcus approached him, not wanting to be rude. "Good evening, sir. Can I get you started with coffee?" No response. The man didn't even flinch. Marcus repeated himself. Still nothing. The man's eyes were fixed on something outside, though from Marcus's angle all he could see was the highway, drowned in fog. Feeling uneasy, he went back behind the counter but kept watching him from the corner of his eye. But no one could have walked up to the diner without triggering the chime above the door, and Marcus hadn't seen any headlights pulling in. He looked back at the man, and he was gone. Not gone as in, got up and left. Vanished. The booth was empty. Marcus blinked, rubbed his eyes. No trace of him, nothing on the table, no coffee, no coat, no footprints. He checked the door. No sound had played. And the handprint outside? It was gone, too. Freaked out, Marcus went into the back office and checked the security footage. He rewound to 2:45 a.m. The footage showed the door opening, but no one entering. The booth remained empty. Marcus could be seen talking to nothing. But then something made his blood run cold. He noticed the outdoor camera feed, pointed toward the window, and there in the fog was a second figure, standing completely still, not moving, not blinking, no face visible, just a dark, blurry shape, staring into the diner. Marcus quit 2 days later. He said he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was outside wasn't human, and worse, that maybe, just maybe, it had come inside. The diner is still open, but every night, around the same time, the waitstaff say they hear the door chime, and no one is there. Some say the window fogs up even when it's not cold outside, and every once in a while, a handprint appears, just for a few seconds, then vanishes. Jared had been working as a night shift security guard for almost 6 years. His latest assignment was at a corporate office building on the outskirts of Denver, an old 6-story structure with underground storage and a parking basement. The building wasn't known for much, just a generic gray concrete tower with humming fluorescent lights and too many empty hallways. But Jared liked it. It was quiet, predictable, until he started noticing the elevator button. Every night, Jared made his hourly rounds, swiping his keycard at checkpoints, making sure all doors were locked, cameras were working, and no one unauthorized was inside. The elevator was part of that check. It stopped working sometimes and needed regular resets. But something new had started happening, something the day shift never noticed. Around 3:12 a.m., like clockwork, the elevator would go to B2, the second sub-basement. Problem was, there was no B2. The elevator panel showed it, lit up red. B2. Jared even took a picture of it one night, thinking maybe he was sleep-deprived. But there it was, right beneath the B1 button, an unmarked, faintly glowing red circle. Jared asked the maintenance guy about it the next day. The guy just chuckled and said, "There's only one basement, no B2. Maybe it's a glitch." So the next night, when the button lit up again, Jared decided to ride the elevator down. He hit the button. The doors closed. There was no sound, no elevator hum, just a sudden, heavy drop in his stomach. When the doors opened, the lights flickered, and he was in a hallway that shouldn't exist. It was freezing. The walls were unfinished concrete, wet with condensation. Old pipes lined the ceiling. The floor was uneven and sloped slightly downward. No signage, no emergency lights, no camera coverage. Jared stepped out, flashlight in hand. His radio crackled, loud static, then died completely. As he walked further, he noticed rooms, old rusted metal doors, some of them slightly open. Inside were things that didn't make sense: a dentist's chair with straps, an old wheelchair facing a wall, jars with yellow liquid that looked decades old. Then he heard crying. It was faint, like a child sobbing behind one of the doors. Jared froze, holding his breath. It wasn't possible. There was no record of any lower level, no access, no blueprints. But the crying got louder, closer. He turned and ran back to the elevator. The button to go up was gone, just a smooth metal panel. His heart pounded in his chest. Suddenly, the hallway lights started shutting off, one by one, coming toward him. Jared banged on the elevator doors, yelling for help. Just as the last light near him died, the doors opened, and he fell in, slamming the close button without looking back. When he got back to the ground floor, he raced to the security office to check the cameras. The feed showed the elevator never moved. Jared had been standing outside it the entire time, except his figure was blurry, twitching, like it wasn't quite synced with the rest of the footage. He quit that same night. But before he left, he tried hitting the B2 button one last time. It wasn't there anymore. It had disappeared completely. 2 months later, a new security guard was hired. First night on the job, at exactly 3:12 a.m., he radioed in a single, panicked sentence before his feed cut off. "Why is there a floor below the basement?" No one's heard from him since.